Everybody. Welcome back. Oh man, is Indiana? Are they a playoff team?
Yes,
Yeah. Okay.
Indiana is a playoff team.
Just out of curiosity, because well, they lost.
They did lose.
Didn't really look super competitive after the first couple of drives.
No, it did not, but also turnovers will do that to you.
Yeah, but how much? How much is that? How much of those turnovers are they got unlucky versus they're just not up to caliber with Ohio State?
Well, I think if you ask me, does Indiana have the ability to win national championship? I'll say no. Is Indiana one of the top 12 teams in the nation? I would say yes to that. And I
I
think that's the different level between Ohio State and Indiana.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of with you there. I mean, I do think that Indiana is. I think coaching often gets understated, and clearly they have one of the best coaches in the country. Kurt Signetti is he's a game changer.
Yes, and they are committed to that project.
Yeah, I mean, let's might as well talk about it now. We talked last week about how he got that massive contract extension. Uh, the salary pool for
Hmm.
the assistant coaches this for this next season at Indiana, it's going to be $11 million.
That considering you pay a coordinator what, 3 million at the most on the high end? That's quite a lot of money.
Well, the thing is, that's the second highest. That is the second highest assistant salary pool of all time in college football. So Indiana they're like,
Do you know who number one is?
actually, I didn't look into it. I'm assuming it's like, one of the blue bloods, like Texas, Ohio State, something like that. A school that like just brings in a ton of money, that also takes football extremely seriously. But I mean, either way, it shows whether you think Indiana deserves to be in the playoff this year or not, they're going to be a mainstay in the future. I mean, Kurt Signetti, I think he was right. They're the emerging superpower. Like they're building a
Yeah, they
monster
are.
Bloomington, and he's got the stuff to do it. Probably what helps Indiana out, as far as their odds to make the playoff. Ole Miss and Alabama. Ole Miss and Alabama lost games.
They did lose games. And I think because of the number of losses that we are seeing now, there's probably going to be one team that is going to be a three-loss team in the playoff.
Okay, I want to say this. People like people about like prior to the season being like, "Oh, could a three-loss SEC team get in?" And it's like, yeah, dude, a three-loss team from any conference could get in. It just depends on the year and how good that team is. Like, if you look at the if you look at the college football playoff rankings, every year they've had it, every year except for last season, because last season was a crazy year where it was like no one got upset down the stretch. There were like 8 or 9 teams with one loss at the end of the year,
Hmm.
um, one loss or fewer. And so, if last year is the only year that is an exception where there is a team with 3 losses to finish in the top 12 of the final college football playoff ranking. So the whole idea of like, oh my God, this is crazy. Could a 3 loss team in? Yes, of course a 3 loss team could get in. My issue though with Ole Miss and Alabama is who their 3 losses are to. Ole Miss now has 2 bad losses
Yeah.
on their resume. Alabama has 3.
Hmm.
They both beat uh they both beat Georgia.
They did.
Um so you give them credit for that, but like at what point, like what do you weigh more at a certain point? Because you have to take both into consideration, because I think, yeah, Notre Dame lost it. Notre Dame has the worst loss out of anybody
Hmm.
in contention for the college football playoff. But they have looked so dominant down the stretch. It wipes it away because it's such an early season loss. You can be a different team from there. At
Right.
a point, when you have 3 bad losses, does one good win really outweigh it?
I don't necessarily think so. Here's a question for you. Um, for what is the rules for the four buys? Is it the top four conference champions? Is that what it is?
Yes.
Or is it top four conferences or the top four teams in the conference?
Top four conference champions.
Top four conference champions.
So the Power Four conference
Not
champions.
necessarily power four, right?
Four conference champions.
Because honestly, could there be an argument to be made where your top four conference champions would be at this point in time would be a Big Ten,
Mhm.
SEC,
And SEC.
ACC, Boise State,
Yes.
and then Tulane sneaks in because they're the out large.
Ooh. Okay. That's a really interesting thought.
And then that means no Big 12 teams.
That would be crazy because I personally think that the Big 12 is in a very, very similar boat as the SEC, as far as there's a lot of good teams, there's no great teams. And so all
No,
these just beating each other up.
right,
The narrative, however, is that in the SEC, they're like, oh, you can't take any weeks off. It's so good. And then versus the Big 12, they're like, they suck. That's why they're losing to each other.
I definitely think there is a possibility because of the way the games have been going, where Arizona State, Colorado, Kansas State, BYU, all these teams, right, are just beating up on each other. And there's no solidified one team in the Big 12 to where could Tulane sneak in as the 12 and then Boise State is ranked ahead of all these teams, so they get the last automatic bid and become that 4 seed.
So here's the thing. I don't think that's a crazy scenario in the slightest because the Big 12 has come out and said that there are currently nine different teams that
Right,
are in contention for the title game. And I think like five of those nine teams have three conference losses already.
right. And so at the minimum, a 4 seed, I think it'd be a horrible look if you have a 4 seed that has at least 3 losses. Like, if any of these teams lose again, they're 4 loss teams, and I don't see in a world way where you could make the argument. Like Tulane played Kansas State already this year, lost by 7.
Hmm.
Like
So
there is an argument to be made that maybe the Big 12 is better than Tulane, but there is a case to be made where who's going to be that 12 seed? Could it be a Big 12 school or could it be Tulane?
I mean, I think I will say to that point, a couple of years ago, when TCU got upset in the Big 12 championship game to Kansas State. You know, Kansas State was a three-loss champion. They were easily the fourth or fifth best conference champion that year because that was with the Pac-12.
Right,
So I don't think it's absurd to say like, oh, you can't have a three-loss team as that 4 seed because sometimes they're just like I think if South Carolina were somehow in contention for the SEC championship and then they snuck their way into the title game and they won, I would rank South Carolina above Tulane. I think South Carolina is one of
hmm
the hottest teams in the country right
they are very good,
now.
but they just lost early.
Yeah, it's I look, it's the committee time and again tells people without directly saying it is better to lose early than it is to lose late.
Yes, but you also just can't lose a lot either. Like South Carolina is by no means do I think South Carolina will make the playoff just
I
because
don't
of
either.
their record.
But the thing is, I think South Carolina I would put them in like if I were on the committee, I would put them in the playoff before Ole Miss and Alabama. Like
Mm,
Carolina's just playing better than both of them.
it's what we call passing the eye test. So as far as like the SEC standings go, I'm looking at it right now. It is here are your 2 lost teams, your two or less lost teams: Texas, Georgia, Tennessee, and A&M. Right after them, actually, South Carolina is 8-3 right now. They're 8-3 with Alabama and Ole Miss and Missouri right there.
Are we? This is actually
So
this.
there is an argument to be made there
It is funny actually that week one South Carolina almost lost to
to
Old Dominion,
Old Dominion.
which is crazy. Like that's wild. But
And
yeah, they're playing good ball right now.
they are playing good ball, but the other argument is like the other three loss teams that you've mentioned, like they could be playing better than them right now. But the other caveat to that is that they've lost to both Ole Miss and Alabama this year.
Yeah,
So, like their losses this year are LSU, Ole Miss, and Alabama.
yeah.
Whereas their
Few.
only ranked win that they have is two, is A&M at South Carolina and Missouri at South Carolina. So make of those wins what you will.
It's true. Those teams aren't very good either.
And they only beat Missouri this last 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago by 34 to 30. They did beat A&M 44 to 20 about a month ago. So
I get actually you do make a good point there.
so it's like the resume, the eye test might look good, but the resume is not exactly like Ole Miss's resume and Alabama's resume because Alabama has a win over that Georgia team, right?
Yes.
So whereas who's South Carolina's best win is a Texas A&M team.
Yeah, I think so.
So it's like it's one of those what do you weigh more? Do you weigh a team that's able to play and win against a better team or they lose against a worse team? You know, like because Ole Miss, they can play up, they can play way down.
I mean, to me, this is all just like I'm not opposed to a three loss team making the 12-team playoff at on principle. I don't I'm not sure if this is the year that we should. I think there's been this weird like, oh, the SEC is better than everyone else and it's not even close. Where it's like, well, nothing changed in the off season. Texas and Oklahoma just went there. That's it. And now there has been this concerted effort to talk about like, well, it's the SEC and everyone else. There's no one else close. But like, I mean, if you look at the Big 12, I think there's a lot of Big 12 teams that should be in contention over these three-loss SEC teams. I know they've lost two in a row. I still think BYU is a good team. They have a really good defense.
They have.
They can support that defense. I think to a
So
less degree, I think Iowa State is good.
Iowa State, BYU, and Arizona State all 6-2, all 9-2 overall.
Yeah,
Colorado's also 6-2 in conference as well.
they are 8-3.
No, they
Colorado
are 8-3, 6-2 in conference though.
8. Yeah,
So I mean, you have a four-way tie right now for the Big 12. Um, Here's a question for you. Is there an argument to be made where potentially three ACC schools could make it in?
yeah, I think so.
You
As it
think
currently stands, yes,
Miami, SMU, and Clemson could make it in?
yes. I think if they all win out, um,
Well, that won't happen because one of them's got to play for a conference championship.
I'm in the regular season.
I got you.
Um, Probably the best case scenario for three ACC teams getting in is SMU winning the championship game.
And getting the bid.
Yeah, because they're going to put Miami in no matter what. The only way they don't put Miami in is if they lose, and then they're like, okay, we're going to stick a three-loss
Man,
Alabama for Miami, which
I'm just trying to do the numbers here where it's like it really depends. Like if SMU goes undefeated in ACC play, they're obviously in. Not just with the bid, but they're definitely in.
yeah,
Um, and then Miami, I think I don't know. How does a tiebreaker work? Because right now Clemson and Miami are both 7-1.
if they so the
Strength of
very
schedule?
strength of schedule was the first tiebreaker, which means that if Miami loses, Clemson gets in over Miami because they have had a
Mm,
tougher strength of schedule in the ACC.
okay.
Um, Both of them have actually had relatively easy strength of schedules in the ACC. They haven't played the toughest schedules in the world. Um, Neither of his SMU, interestingly enough. I do think all three are good teams.
Yeah. And then moving on to the Big Ten with Ohio State now officially being Indiana. Ohio State now has the official tiebreaker over both Penn State and Indiana
Yeah,
to play Oregon in the Big Ten championship.
yeah,
Let's see, what else is there? Notre Dame is red hot right now. They're gonna get in.
mm-hmm.
I
I mean,
think
USC, who USC is.
I I think they could still lose that game and potentially sneak in.
Who could lose that game?
Notre Dame.
Right?
Notre
Uh,
Dame could lose to USC at USC and potentially sneak in. It's currently the sixth seed, one loss team, a two loss team. I definitely would still have them, depending on how the loss is. This is a caveat here. Like if USC smokes them, but like they're definitely in front of Ole Miss, Alabama, South Carolina for me. Like they're in front of all those three loss teams. I still would have them in front of all of the Big 12 except for maybe BYU if they figure it out. But
and Arizona State. I'm telling you, don't sleep on Arizona State.
all right.
Kenny Dillingham is a good coach. I said it last year. I was like, I think this guy's a good coach. I think the team just sucks. And now they're winning games. And it's like, okay,
Mm,
still a good coach. I think the team just doesn't suck anymore. But
I mean,
I don't know. I think there are so many people that I mean, we're seeing it because it's year one of the 12 team playoff. Uh, there are all these people who are like, oh, well, the 12 team playoff is stupid because there's only four teams that can win it anyway. It's the same argument that we were hearing when the 4 team playoff first happened because there were a ton of people who were like, well, the 4 team playoff is stupid because there's only two teams that can win it every year anyway. And it's like, okay, that was disproven in year one
right.
when the 4 seeded Ohio State team won the national championship.
I,
And so I think you're getting a lot of people who, if if Notre Dame slips up against USC, there's going to be so many people that are like, no, no, they're gone. They don't get a chance.
mm.
It's like, okay, but why do they get a chance? Why did they not get a chance? But like, Ole Miss still could sneak into the playoff. Like, why?
I
It doesn't
mean, it is an interesting take. I will say with the 12-team playoff, usually historically speaking, if you had two losses, you were done. You didn't have a shot.
in the
If you
four
had, huh?
14 playoff
No, no, no. If you had two losses,
in the
like
four.
regardless, like BCS, like you could have like a one loss and be
Yeah,
11-1 and make it in like BCS still, you know? Or you could be, but if you had two losses, you're not getting in. And I think the fact that for the most part, I feel like we're not going to have a two-loss team get snubbed. It's like year three, you really had to play yourself out of it
we
to
might have
not get in.
stuff. We'll see what happens in the Big 12
True, but
in the ACC.
true as well. I mean, like it's one of those where it's like if you have two or less losses, I feel like this year you're gonna get in. There's an argument to be made. I kind of want to look at the rankings just to see if there is room for all of that. Because like right now, oh no, I stand corrected. Because right now the line is about 9-2. Because like Clemson's 12 seed at 9-2. It would leave out Arizona State as it stands right now. It would be actually Clemson would be out. No, yes, it would be Clemson would be out because of they would have to put in a group of five because Boise State's in front of them right now.
Mm.
So
I
as it
mean,
stands right now, the standings would be Oregon, Ohio State, Texas, Penn State, Notre Dame, Georgia, Tennessee, Miami, SMU, Indiana, Boise State, and then Tulane would get it as well.
yeah, I mean, we'll see. We're recording this on a Tuesday, so the updated
Yep.
playoff ranking is going to come out today. So we'll see what happens there. Um, but yeah, it's like I don't know. I think we are on a little bit of a timer today, just because
Yeah.
I'm a busy boy. But um, I think in the past, I have not been opposed to a team with fewer losses getting in over a team, well, a team with more losses getting in with a team over, getting in over a team with fewer losses. If that team with more losses, I think is better. I had
Hmm.
mentioned how there was one year where Auburn Auburn had like worked their way into the number 4 ranking in the country, and they were like 9 and they had a 10-2 record through the regular
Mm.
season, and I didn't have a problem with it. I was perfectly fine with it because I was like, Auburn's playing really good football right now. Auburn looks really, really good. They got a ton of ranked wins on their path to becoming that 4 seed. And so I was like, yeah, sure. Auburn's really good. They
Yeah.
they look like they're playing really, really good football. I don't have a problem with Auburn getting in over a one-loss team because they look like the real deal. Same thing, I don't have a problem with uh like a three-loss team getting in over a two-loss team if that three-loss team has a really impressive resume and looks really good. The issue that I take that I would take up is if a three-loss team gets in over a one-loss team from a power conference when that one-loss team looks good.
Which we won't have that this year, thank goodness.
We'll see. Also, I took issue last year with Florida State not getting in because it's not like, oh, well, a team with more losses got in over a team with fewer losses. No, they didn't lose a single game. It shouldn't be a conversation. They went
Hmm.
undefeated. They should have got in. Same thing with like if SMU gets snubbed this year, like if they win the final game of the regular season and then they just don't happen to win the
The
ACC,
conference.
I still think they should be in. I think SMU is really good.
That would put them at a two-loss program, and I would see them being in.
11 and 2. I just
Yeah,
I
it's
could
an
see
11 and 2. It's an asterisk too, because you had to play the extra game.
yeah. Again, I've said it. I don't believe you should get penalized for losing that conference championship game because you're playing a game no one else had to play.
Hmm.
So, but I see a world where they lose that ACC championship game and they put Alabama in front of them.
Well, I mean, like, so I don't know, because like, so it's the question of which one's more important, a better quality win and having three losses, or losing two, but not really having that dominating win on the resume as well. I think that's the question at hand. It comes down to who is better. Do you like a Alabama, Ole Miss, South Carolina, or do you like a Arizona State, Iowa State, and BYU? That's the question.
Out of those three in the Big 12, I like BYU and Arizona State personally. I think Iowa State's good.
Hmm.
Their offense is a little anemic at times.
Right.
They have a really good defense. I don't know. Um, I just think that like I don't know. It has to be a holistic approach. Like you have to try to weigh equally quality wins versus who are your losses to, and also things like how do they look, like
Hmm.
because that is, I think the eye test oftentimes gets passed off as a way to put one team over another for literally no good reason
Hmm.
what's. However, I think there is merit to it, like the eye test, because like there you can look at a game like this is going way back into history. When Louisville hired Steve Cragthorpe as their football coach, the very first game he coached, Louisville won 70-7 against Murray State. Impressive win, right? On paper, you won by 63 points. You hung 70 on another team. Doesn't matter. It's an FCS team. That's what you're supposed to do if you're a really, really good team. And they were ranked like number 5 preseason that year. So they people were like, yeah, sure, Louisville's really good. But like if you watch that game, Louisville didn't really look that good in that game.
Mm.
And then guess what? They went 6-6 that year. So like
Yeah.
how you win is actually important. Not just like running up the score, but like do you look like you're in control of that game?
Here's the other thing about it is like if it comes down to it this year, really, if you think about it, I'm going to hate to be the 12 seed. Like if there's any way I can be the 11 on the opposite side of that bracket rather than that 12, because if you're that 12 seed this year, you are going to get Oregon or Ohio State. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. That is who you are getting.
Yeah.
That is who you're getting first round going into their place.
Unless Sharon Moore finally shows that potential.
Whatever.
Unless
But
Alex Orgy and the boys get it cooking.
I mean, like, as it currently stands, like, if you're the 11 seed, you're going to get that 6 seed, which would be right now would be Notre Dame. I'd much rather play Notre Dame.
Absolutely.
I would much rather play Notre Dame than Ohio State or Oregon,
Oh my God, yes.
without question.
Sorry, Jacob, but oh my God, yes. Would I rather play a Marcus Freeman coach team than Ohio State or Oregon?
Yeah. So it
That's
it'll be interesting to see. Like, honestly, if I'm like a Big 12 team and I sneak in, actually, I don't think there's a world where a Big 12 team gets in and a Tulane gets in. I think it's only one or the other.
I think I agree. Unless Boise State loses the championship game. That's the only scenario Tulane gets in. And
That is a two-loss Boise. But would you rather have a two-loss Boise or a two-loss Tulane? And let me just say, one has the Heisman on their team, the other one doesn't. Which one's going to bring more eyeballs? Even though it shouldn't be about that,
wait,
that's what it's going to be about.
are you coming around? Is
That's what
that
it's going to be about. I mean, I'll be honest with you. Do I want to watch a Tulane team get smoked by Oregon or Ohio State, or do I want to watch Ashton Genty put up another 200 yarder on Oregon like he did in week 2? You know what I'm saying? Because
yeah?
Boise only lost by 3 to Oregon.
Boise doesn't really have that good a defense,
No,
so
they don't. They don't.
a very exciting game, whoever they play.
Right.
But all right, for the sake of time, we're going to move on to the other games of
Yeah.
this past week. Illinois beat Rutgers by a touchdown, and oh my God, the ending of that game is hilarious. Did you see what happened?
I did not know.
It's fourth and like 13 or something. Uh, they're down by 1 point. Illinois goes to kick a field goal right before the field goal is snapped. It is snapped, however, but right before Greg Schiano Rutgers calls the timeout, they kick the field goal anyway. It's short, and so Brent Bielema was like, "Okay, if we're
We're
gonna
gonna go for it.
go for it," and on that fourth and 13 play, they get a 40-yard touchdown to win.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But then if I'm Rutgers head coach, I'm pissed that that ball got snapped and kicked.
I'm not that mad. No, because
Oh,
I
I'm
think
so pissed. Like if
I
you call timeout, in theory, you're not the whole point of that timeout is ice, right? If the kicker is allowed to go through the motions,
yeah,
then
I'm not upset with that. Because
I,
I don't know, you've seen teams in the past like ice the kicker right at the perfect time to where he
mhm.
does kick it, and then that next kick he's tired because he's been practice, and then that second kick that he does, that the one that actually counts for real, it's short because he's tired at that point. It's a strategy. I'm not opposed to that.
Mm.
It just sucks that Britt Bielema is like, all right, screw it, fourth and 13, let's trot the team out there. Um, Penn State barely escaped with a victory over Minnesota.
Yes, they did. Gosh.
God, PJ Fleck, I don't know what he's doing there. Is he doing something right or is he not? Like
No, it's been they had 1 year where they were like something. They were like maybe. They
they
were like
they were really good. They had another year where they were good.
right. And other than that, it's just been meh. Like, and that's including being on the side of a Big Ten for the longest time that had Wisconsin and Minnesota and Iowa you were competing against.
Yeah.
And it's like you're just if you can't beat those teams, it's just meh. Iowa can't even throw the damn ball. Like, what are we, you know?
And the rest of the Big Ten outside of the top like three or four teams,
Yeah, you could throw in Indiana this year.
garbage.
Yeah. Well,
So
I like Illinois.
Illinois is fine.
I
Illinois is fine.
like Illinois.
They've got a solid defense. I like Luke Altmaier. But
Yeah,
yeah.
I was gonna say. Other than that, it's like 4 playoff teams. Illinois, everyone else.
Uh so BYU, we talked a little bit about it. Arizona State beat BYU. Another crazy ending.
Yeah,
Why do these fans keep storming the field? Like
they
they're
stormed it early.
they stormed it twice. It's like beating BYU is not that big a victory. Like calm down.
For Arizona State, it is okay.
I don't care if you're Austin P. It's not that big a victory. Like relax.
If it's Austin P, you know they're storming the field with their 5 fans.
Yeah. Uh, Colorado lost to Kansas. People are acting like this is a terrible loss.
No,
Kansas,
Kansas is a good team.
they're another team that is super hot right now, and also
Mm-hmm.
they've lost 5 games by one possession. I don't want
Yeah,
to play the game necessarily, but like if you want to do it, they could easily be 10-1 right now,
yeah.
easily. But even without that, they're one of the hottest teams right now. They've won 3 in a row with their backs against the wall. Actually, was it three? No, I think they've won 4 in a row with their backs against the wall.
They
This
it could have been.
they are one game away from bowl eligibility.
Yeah,
And
they're 5-6.
yeah,
And who they have to beat? Kansas State?
No, they're Kansas State's playing at Farmageddon.
Let
Uh,
me look. I got it right here.
it's bad.
They have Baylor
Yep, that's a
at
winnable.
Baylor.
That's a winnable game still.
It is very winnable.
Pitt got handled by Louisville. As a Louisville fan, this is both very exciting and also extremely frustrating. Um, it's like
Their
one,
their
one
quarterback went down. Their quarterback got carted off the field.
still,
First quarter. I
still
mean, like
Louisville so much like speed and aggression. It's like why don't you just do that every single game? That has been Louisville's problem this year. If Louisville gave it their all every single game, they would be 9-2 right now.
I mean,
They
I
lost
I
to Notre Dame and Miami. That's it.
I think this was from what I watched at the game and stuff. It was just the morale was deflated once you see your quarterback go off the field. It wasn't necessarily that Louisville looked fantastic. I just felt Pitt was deflated. Like the only good player on that Pitt team was that running back.
And Louisville shut him down.
Yeah, and he had some plays though that I was like, wow, this guy's good though.
60 something all purpose yards. And he's a monster. Desmond Reed, that guy's incredible.
He's a very good running back.
Yes. Notre Dame destroyed Army. Honestly, an even more decisive victory than what they had against Navy.
It was, and I think that was Army's first loss.
Yes, it is.
So that catapulted Tulane up to where Army had, if they get this win, they're definitely looking at a playoff. Honestly, how would that work with does the playoffs start after the Navy game?
Yeah.
Okay, because I was about to say, I wonder
They,
if there would be a scheduling conflict there.
they would have played the Navy game already by the time the playoffs start.
Ah, okay.
They're not gonna
But it's
the
nor here nor there.
selection Sunday would happen before that Navy game.
I got you.
But it doesn't matter. I don't think Army really has a chance to make the playoff.
No, they don't.
Um, Boise State barely beat Wyoming, but Wyoming is a very tough place to play.
But they're
Washington,
2-8 or 2-9 or something.
yeah, they're not very, but they have a really, really tough home field advantage. It genuinely is. It's a tough place to play
All right, I'll take your word for it.
at. Washington State lost the Pac-2 conference championship game to Oregon State. Alabama lost to Oklahoma, and Texas A&M lost to Auburn in 4 overtimes.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest, I wasn't really shocked by that. I
The
still
Oklahoma loss for Alabama, I was shocked by. The Auburn A&M, I'm not shocked by.
shocked by that one either. I don't know. There's something about both of those. I was like, yeah, I think both of them might lose.
All right.
All
Well,
right,
let's get into the news.
let's do it. Let's do the news. Let's start off with Georgia Tech has just hired a new member of their front office for the athletic department. It is a former member of the Chicago Bears front office, and he has been hired to the role of revenue share role. That's just kind of what they're calling it, the revenue share role.
Mm.
Uh, that's wild. I mean,
I
it's a smart move, I think.
It makes sense because you definitely want someone who's been in sports, who can manage the books in some capacity
Yeah.
and know where the money's going and who it's going to.
Hmm. Also, he's got, if you're working in the front office of an NFL team, you have experience with not only managing revenue and sports and everything from a sports league, uh, but like doing it on such a large scale as the NFL, and you like see how the
Yeah.
NFL is like cream of the crop as far as like business as well.
Oh, as far as like sports entertainment goes, it is the industry.
It prints money.
Yes.
It's
It has a dedicated day of the year.
Yeah, Sunday.
Yeah,
I think it's a good hire if you're going to hire anyone, and also I think it's very forward thinking.
it is. It'll be
Yeah,
interesting to see how this role is implemented and
yeah. I mean, it's like how Notre Dame hired their like, I think they hired someone with like an NIL uh, position in the off season. This is similar to that. I feel like I think both of them are very good hires. I think
mm,
they're very forward thinking. Uh, Next up we have ECU is head coaching news. ECU is promoting their interim head coach Blake Harrell to full time head coach.
what is has ECU done?
They are 4-0 since they have put him in the interim role, but they have played four of the easiest games imaginable. I mean, if you look at their schedule, the teams that they play are garbage. Garbage. At least two of those teams have fired their head coaches in Temple and Tulane. So,
So also another thing to note, I just realized this that ECU is fourth in the American, right?
yep,
Do they do a conference championship?
yes.
We will probably see a Tulane Army championship.
No, it's already guaranteed.
Right. So that will probably decide a group of five school if Boise continues to win and a Big 12 school can't catch up to Boise.
Yeah,
That's exciting.
yeah,
To know that you're in the American and whoever wins your conference championship is going to the playoff, that's kind of crazy.
that would be wild. I mean, see, that's the thing.
That's kind of wild.
When Cincinnati and Houston played in the conference championship game for the American,
Hmm.
whenever Luke Fickell was there, and like
Yeah, yeah.
we knew that if Cincinnati won, they were going to playoff. That was one of the craziest games I've ever watched on television. Just
Really?
because, like, it wasn't actually that good a game. Cincinnati blew them out, but like the home crowd in that game was raucous. Oh my god, that is, I think, the best home crowd I have ever seen in
Now,
a college football game.
as far as like an eye test goes, I truly do feel like for them to get in and it not be a Big 12 school, it wait, no, because they're a group of five. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. They don't have to be better than the Big 12. They would just get the 12 and then 12 seed and Big 12 will have to find a way in. Never mind. Because I was thinking like it doesn't look good that Army did not look well against Notre Dame.
I mean, it doesn't. No, it doesn't help.
It doesn't help that eye test. But anyway, it doesn't matter because one group of five school will get in if Boise continues to win. If not, Boise could drop down to the 12. Boise's probably sitting in a very good spot right now.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
No, you're good. Yeah, there's just a little note about that ECU promotion to head coach. There was a rumor that their top target was Tyson Helson at WKU,
Okay.
but WKU's lost two games in a row, and they're now sitting at 7-4, and they play Jacksonville State, who is the best team in Conference USA. So they're probably going to be 7-5 at the end. And then
So
sudden Tyson Helson looks a lot less attractive.
I understand what you're saying as far as like they've gone 4-0 because they played North Texas, Temple, Tulsa, and Florida Atlantic.
Yep.
All four of those teams
Have
have
all four fired their coach?
all four of them are not bowl eligible at the moment. Closest one is North Texas at 5-6.
I think North Texas is the only one that hasn't fired their coach.
Well, because that would make sense because the rest of them are 3-8 or worse.
Yeah.
So,
So yeah, they got a garbage schedule. So
and they turned it around.
I don't
Maybe
think
that's another way you do it as an AD is that it justifies the hire. If you fire this guy mid-season, you bring in the interim and you want that guy to succeed, you're like, hey, you got a cupcake cakewalk of a schedule here. You just got to win these next four and you're hired.
maybe.
There's a way to go about it.
I
Yeah.
think that'd be a terrible move as an AD, but
Yeah. But hey,
all right. We're gonna have to condense some of this just because of time.
time.
Yeah. We'll bring up one more coaching thing and then one more bit of news, and then we'll do the pickums. So coaching thing. This happened just now, like today, uh, this morning as of recording this. But Mac Brown, North Carolina has announced they're going to fire Mac Brown. That is after he tried to fire himself earlier in the year, and then he gave himself a contract extension, and then he tried to retain himself on Monday when he was like, "Yeah, I'll be back next year." And today, North Carolina was like, "Yeah, no, we're firing him."
Yeah, no. I mean, Mac
They're,
Brown is a good coach.
he's a fine coach.
I mean, he has a good record. If there's anything to go off of in a Power Five conference, he
He,
went 44-31 from his time of 2019 to now.
he's the only coach in college football history with 100 wins at two power conference schools.
Hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean he's got a really good resume. I don't know. It just kind of game is
Do
passed
you
him.
do you agree with this decision?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I personally do. Um, I just think I think he's done.
I mean, yeah. Writing's kind of on the wall. He was seen as like that transition coach. He was only going to be there for a couple of years, rebuild it, and he stayed for 6.
Yeah, he was there for a little longer than I thought.
Right.
He was kind of a disappointment. The majority there.
I gotcha.
I will say I've only heard two names seriously. I'll say two and a half. Names seriously thrown out as the replacement for Mac Brown at North Carolina. John Summerall and Jamie Chadwell. And then the other name, which I think is semi-serious, but I don't really think he wants to get back into coaching, is Dan Mullen. Um, yeah,
Dan Mullen is enjoying his time on a halftime show reporting desk.
yeah, I think that's exactly what I think too.
Summerall's Tulane's coach. That'd be interesting. He's 32-6 overall, so that's a very good record.
I think
And th-
Summerall is a great coach. I think
and then
Jamie
who?
is
Jamie
also
who?
Jamie Chadwell. He's Liberty's coach.
Oh, okay.
I think
Jamie.
both of those would be very good hires for North Carolina, and I think that's what they should try to get.
He is 21-3. I mean, these are both very good coaches at lower level schools,
They're
which is
fantastic.
usually how you have to go about it to get a decent coach. Look at what Indiana does. It can either work very well or it can turn out very poorly. You could either end up with a Kirk Cinetti or a Scott Satterfield.
Yeah. Ooh, got
So,
But I mean, those are the two names that I've heard seriously floated. I've heard a bunch of other names, but those are the only two names that I've heard
mm,
like consistently brought up. I think North Carolina wants John Summerall. Um, I think he's the better coach, but I think both of them are very good coaches.
I gotcha.
I think both of them, honestly, I think would be home run hires. But
Yeah,
we'll
I would agree with that.
I mean, we have a poll up on YouTube if you want to vote on who you think will get that job.
All right.
But one last bit of news before we do the pickums. Women's basketball. South Carolina lost.
South Carolina did lose.
They got handled.
Did they?
Oh, they lost by like 17 to
Really?
UCLA. Yeah. UCLA
It
crushed.
is, it is snaps a 43 game win
Win.
streak.
Yep. I mean, man, they just so
Yeah.
UCLA ranked number one. This is the first time they've ever been ranked number one in the AP poll. Our poll hasn't come out yet, but they're probably going to be ranked number one in ours. That will be the first time that we rank number one in ours too. Isn't that funny?
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I mean, there's not really much to it. It's just one of those things where it's like they've been so dominant that it's news when they lose.
I mean, yeah. But then also, it's like, I think this just goes to show how good Lauren Betts is.
Oh my God, yes. Because
Well,
I don't think UCLA's coach is that good a coach.
mm,
Like
but
she's fine.
it's just nice when you have like the next Brittany Griner on your team, and the fact that she transferred out from Colorado to come and join your team is kind of, or Stanford, yeah.
It's like it's not just Lauren because Lauren Betts is incredible, but they also have like
Kiki Rice.
they have Kiki Rice, they have Gabriela Jaquez, they have
Yeah, she came off the bench this game looking at the box score.
great Gabriela Jaquez is good.
She is good.
And then they've got Lauren Betts' sister committed to them for this upcoming recruiting class.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. So UCLA is going to be good for a while.
And Betts is only a junior too.
Is she a junior? I thought she was a sophomore.
She's a junior.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
technically, she could leave for the WNBA after this.
Yeah, but
Not yet. Not yet. Sorry.
no, you're all good. All right. And let's do the pick'ems.
All right. Let's do the pick'ems.
Mm,
We got 12 of them this week.
we do.
It's rivalry week. Let's start off with it's not a rivalry, but they knew this would be a big game. Memphis Tulane.
Yep. Team coming in at the very beginning in Memphis this season who had a shot at the playoff, kind of played their way out. Whereas we have a Tulane team that's now starting to look like they're starting to play their way into the playoff.
Hey, I mean,
Give me Tulane in this.
yeah, yeah, I'm with you there. This is interesting because Miami of Ohio versus Bowling Green. The winner of this will make the MAC championship game. The loser will likely not. I think there was a scenario where both of them do, but it's probably not likely. So this is basically a play-in for the championship game.
Mm,
And I'm gonna go with Miami of Ohio.
I don't know. You know what? Because it's at home for Bowling Green on a Friday at noon, give me Bowling Green. It's Black Friday.
Another Black Friday game. We got Georgia Tech versus Georgia. This is at Georgia at Athens, between the hedges, I believe.
Hmm.
Uh, who you got?
I'm going with Georgia.
All right, call me crazy. I'm going with Georgia Tech.
Hmm. You're going with
I
the Haynes.
I think Haynes can.
Haynes, Haynes King and Bernard. Where? How do you say the running back's name?
Uh, Jamal Haynes.
Yeah.
They have like the same name.
Yeah.
Haynes.
One's a first name, one's a last name.
Exactly. Uh, that's also a Black Friday game. It's not a pick 'em because Mississippi State sucks, but watch the Egg Bowl on Black Friday. I'm telling you, it's one of the most hateful games of college
Mm.
football to watch. It's so much fun. Uh, Next up, we have Tennessee versus Vandy. This is at Vandy. Vandy has been surprisingly good at home this year. I'm going to take Vandy.
I'm going Tennessee.
All right. South Carolina versus Clemson. Surprisingly, a very, very, very impactful game. I think a lot of
Huge
people,
impactful game for both teams, actually.
yeah. I think I'm going to take Clemson just because they're at home. I'm going to give them the nod. Um, yeah, give me Clemson. Give me the Tigers.
I'm going South Carolina here.
Wow, it's a lot of disagreement between us. UTSA versus Army. Army coming off of that awful loss. UTSA is they're playing pretty well. They're 6-5, but the thing is they got off to a horrible start.
They are a Kansas, are they?
A little bit.
Gotcha.
Can't be American. I'm gonna take UTSA in this one.
I'm going Army.
That's crazy. All right, all right. Next up, we have Miami versus Syracuse. This is Syracuse. Kyle McCord has been very good this year. Syracuse has weapons. They have the offense to keep up with Miami, but I'm going with the Hurricanes.
I think I'm going with the Hurricanes here too.
All right. Next up, we have Jacksonville State versus WKU. Uh,
Jacksonville State has looked very good this season. They look very good.
they're like they're just outside my top 25.
They're very good.
They're looking really good. They started off 10-3.
They're
They've right.
7-0 in conference play. They're playing phenomenal right now.
So I'm gonna take Jacksonville State.
Yeah, same here.
All right, Kansas State versus Iowa State. This is
Oh, this is
again
a weird one.
surprise. It's Farmageddon though. It's a fun rivalry. Um, I'm gonna go Kansas State.
Mm. It's at Iowa State. I'll go Iowa State.
Virginia Tech. This is actually not a very good game, but it's on here because both teams are 5-6. So
Mm.
one team will go bowling and one will not, and that's fun to me.
I gotcha.
I'm gonna take Virginia.
I'm going Virginia Tech.
Wild. We just
I'm not
I,
even like doing this preemptively either. I'm like, I have my pick made.
I know. Um, all right. Next up, we have Marshall versus James Madison in the Sun Belt. Both teams are 8-3. Both have pretty good years. James Madison kind of lost a lot of their momentum because I think they started off the year 4-0 or 5-0, and now they're 8-3. So they've kind of stumbled down the stretch. I'm gonna take James Madison though. Bob Chesney he's been good
Hmm.
coach coming from Holy Cross at the FCS level. I think James Madison gets it done at home.
And I'm right there with you. Going James Madison.
Finally, Texas versus Texas A&M. This is our game of the week. It's a rivalry renewed.
Yep.
Yeah,
I'm going Texas.
literally been saying it all season long. I don't care that they lost to Auburn. I'm going to take Texas A&M in this game. I think they're going to beat Texas.
Okay, just for record, I want to know how many differentials we have.
Um,
Like, so what were the same ones we had? We both picked Georgia.
I think there's 4 games that we picked the same. So we
Georgia, Kansas, Georgia, Jacksonville State, James Madison.
Tulane and Memphis.
I picked Tulane.
Yeah, we both picked Tulane.
Okay, wow. So out of the 12 picks, we have four the same.
So 8 different.
Eight different.
Look, it's fun that way.
It goes to show that there are a bunch of hopefully close games this week for college football.
It should be a fun rivalry week.
Hmm.
That's all we got today. I gotta get going. I hope you enjoyed the episode, and hope you participate in our who should North Carolina hire poll. Jacob. All
Bye,
right.
guys.